here we will mainly discuss on three glandular systems. The three glandular systems which provide the bulk to the semen. That is, the semen is mainly formed by the prostatic secretions, the secretions coming from the testis, and the secretion from the seminal vesicle. So the prostatic secretion, it mainly consists of acid phosphatase. It is acidic in nature and consists of acid phosphatase, the citric acid, the fibrinolysin, the amylase, the prostate specific antigens, and the prostaglandins. So first we'll discuss, I'll tell you a brief on the growth of the prostate, then we'll go to the detail of the histology. So the prostate, it is chestnut in appearance, and it is the only organ. The prostate is the only gland, it is the gland which is the length is less but the breadth is more. The length of the prostate is 3 centimeter. The length is 3 centimeter, but the breadth is breadth of the prostate is more. That is, the breadth is 4 centimeter, length is 3 centimeter. The anterior posterior diameter is 2 centimeter, and its weight is 8 to 10 grams. So there are certain organs like pons whose breadth is more than the length. The cecum, pons, the celiac trunk, these have breadth is more but the length is less. So here we see the prostate, it is chestnut in appearance, and it has a base. It lies, this is the urinary bladder. It lies at the towards the apex of the urinary bladder. So this is the prostate. This is the prostate. It is chestnut in appearance with transverse diameter of 4 centimeter. The length is only 3 centimeter. The anterior posterior is 2 centimeter. The weight is 8 to 10 grams. So it lies at the apex of the bladder, and it has a base pointing towards the apex of the bladder. This is the trigone of bladder, urinary bladder. So this is the base. The apex is pointing below, and it is lying over the urogenital diaphragm. This is the apex of the prostate is lying over the urogenital diaphragm, and these two are the levator muscles, the pelvic diaphragm on both sides. And it has three surfaces, that is the two lateral surface, the anterior surface and posterior surface. And anatomically it has a median lobe and two lateral lobes anatomically. But surgically it has, they tell that it has 5 lobes. Anteriorly there is another lobe, and posteriorly there is another. So surgically it has 5 lobes. Prostate, it has 5 lobes. The median lobe, which is above the transverse sulcus. This is the transverse. This is the view of prostate from behind. This is the view when you just take a coronal section and you will find this. And this is the view of the prostate from behind, posterior view. This is the posterior median sulcus, which divides the two lateral sulcus. There are two lateral lobes. So these are the two lateral lobes. Just above the transverse sulcus is the median lobe. And this transverse sulcus, it is pierced by ejaculatory ducts on both sides, and in the center there is opening of the prostatic utricle or prostatic urethra. And just behind, in front, this prostate, it is pierced by prostatic urethra, and the prostatic urethra, it passes through the prostate, dividing it in such a way that anteriorly only 1/3 is left, posteriorly 2/3. So it is more anteriorly. So anteriorly, in front of the there is an isthmus. That is, we call it as anterior lobe, and there is a posterior. That is surgically, but anatomically it has only 3 lobes: medial lobe, median lobe, and 2 lateral lobes. coming to the prostate is a glandular. It is glandular in nature, so it is made up of mainly three components. So we call it as fibromusculoglandular. Why? Because we can see the slide in histology. It is mainly 1 foot by fibromuscular tissue. You can see this intermediate areas. These are the fibromuscular tissue. Prostate is called fibromusculoglandular. That is 1 foot by fibrous tissue, fibrostroma, 1 foot by muscular tissue, that is the smooth muscles, and half by glands. Half of the prostate is found by glandular tissue. So these follicle-like things lined by the glandular epithelium. Here you can see the cuboidal-like epithelium, cuboidal to columnar epithelium. So this is the glandular part. So glandular part is almost half, and fibrous stroma, fibro, it is 1 foot, and muscular, smooth muscles, it is 1 foot. So it is called fibromusculoglandular. And within the lumen of this glandular part, we can see prostatic concretions. We can see these prostatic concretions, which are found mostly, these are the prostatic concretions are otherwise called corpora amylacea. They are found mostly towards the older age. During old age you find mostly this, and these are the glandular acini which you see. And coming to the zonal anatomy of the prostate, it has, so this is the section, these two are the ejaculatory ducts opening into the, this is the vas, this is the preprostatic sphincter, this is the vas. Then when these ducts of the seminal fascicles, they open into the ejaculatory duct. So the area surrounding the prostatic part, it is called the transitional zone. This is the transitional zone, the yellowish area surrounding the prostatic part, preprostatic part. This greenish area surrounding the ejaculatory duct, it is called the central zone, and the peripheral part is called the peripheral zone. This peripheral part is called the peripheral zone. So why this zonal anatomy? This zonal anatomy is given by McNeill's zonal anatomy of prostate. He devised this, and it has a peripheral part, the part surrounding the two ejaculatory ducts, that is called the central part, and the part surrounding the prostatic urethra, that is called the transitional zone. So the peripheral zone is more prone for malignancy. Peripheral zone is more prone for malignancy, and the transitional zone is prone for benign hypertrophy of prostate. So usually these two things, they occur after 40 years, 40 to 50 years. So the patient will complain of urgency and dribbling of urine. So all these will be, and how we examine the prostate. If the patient complains of any features like this symptoms, so we first do a per rectal examination, so that we can palpate the posterior surface. So this is the rectum separated from the prostate by, this is the rectovesical pouch. So we can insert our index finger and we can do a PI, per rectal examination. This is the first outdoor examination which we do when we hear about any symptoms of benign hypertrophy or we suspect any malignancy. First we do a per rectal examination. Through the rectum we insert our index finger like this, and we just feel the posterior surface of the prostate. So mostly the carcinoma of prostate, it occurs in the peripheral zone, and benign hypertrophy occurs in the transitional zone. study of seminal fascicle, which is the second gland which provides bulk to the specimen semen, that is cross section. We take a cross section of prostate, we find the glandular part is arranged in 3 layers. So innermost layer, this is the colliculus seminalis, this is the prostatic urethra. So this is the prostatic urethra, and the glands are arranged in 3 layers. So innermost mucosal layer, which opens directly to the prostatic. We find that there are the glands are arranged in 3 layers. Innermost mucosal layer, middle is the submucosal layer, the mucosal layer draining directly into the prostatic urethra. Then the middle is the submucosal layer, it is draining at the level of prostatic urethra. Then the outermost is they have the long ducts. These are larger glands. The outermost, they have a larger ducts and they will drain above the prostatic urethra. And here we find the prostate is covered by a true capsule and a false capsule. The true capsule, it is a condensation of the fibrous stroma and it is intimately adherent to the prostate, and the false capsule, it lies outside. That is, it covers, the false capsule is derived from the pelvic fossa and it covers both the urinary bladder and the prostate. It covers both. The false capsule, it is a derivative from the pelvic fossa and it covers both the urinary bladder and the prostate. So, and the prostatic venous plexus, it lies between the true capsule and the false capsule. So inner one is the true capsule, outer one is the false capsule, and in between we have the prostatic venous plexus. So in case of carcinoma prostate, so the carcinoma prostate, it mainly affects the peripheral zone. So in case of carcinoma prostate, we need to enucleate the prostate by leaving behind these 2 layers. If we disturb the true capsule and false capsule, then there will be lot of bleeding. So what do? We enucleate through the transurethral way and we take out the prostate, leaving behind the true capsule and false capsule along with the prostatic venous plexus. But in the thyroid case, thyroid gland, what happens? Thyroid gland, similarly, it is covered by a true capsule, which is the condensation of the fossa, and the false capsule, which is made up of pretracheal fossa. Then here the prostatic venous plexus lies between the true capsule and the false capsule, but in thyroid gland what happens? It lies beneath the true capsule. So what do we do? When there is any malignancy of thyroid, what do? We just we leave the true capsule along with the venous, we take out, we give an incision along this line between the true capsule and the false capsule in case of thyroid, because the thyroid venous plexus, it lies below the true capsule. So what we give the line of incision between the true capsule and the false capsule in case of thyroid. This you should remember. So this is all about in malignancy of prostate. What happens? The smooth muscles. It first sign how we detect the malignancy. That is, we have there are smooth muscles surrounding the true capsule. There are 2 layers of smooth muscle. One is the outer layer of smooth muscle. It is around the true capsule, and the inner layer will be around there are 2 layers, and the inner layer will be inside, and they will be connected by radial spokes-like arrangement of smooth muscles. And in case of carcinoma prostate, what happens? It first affects the smooth muscles, the muscular layer, so that what happens?
these acini, there will be disruption in the muscular layer, and these acini, all these glands, these acini will be, they will lose their normal configuration, and we will see a compactness in the glandular region. So there we see that there is fibromuscular glandular. This glandular part is separated by fibromuscular tissue. But in carcinoma prostate, what happens? The carcinoma cells, they will affect the muscular layer. So the acini will be arranged in a compact manner. Okay. There will be confluence of acini, and there will be infiltration in the stroma, the perineal lymphatics. Okay. And so the normal configuration of the prostatic this acini will be lost. That is, the acini will be compact to each other. There will be loss of fibromuscular layer in carcinoma prostate. This is how, by looking at the slide, we can know. So this is all about the prostatic, the